Welcome one and all to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. I'm Karen Keith and so happy to see all of you here today. Our song and pledge will be by past President Matt Davis. And I have to acknowledge on technology, Steve Perkins, we have put him through the paces in the last few days. So Steve, thank you very much. Visitor introductions by Joy Longmire, and our invocation will now be given by past President Muzon Biggs.
Let us pray. God of love, we thank you for all with which you've blessed us even to this day, for the gift of joy in days of health and strength, and for the gift of your abiding presence in days of pain and grief. New every morning is your love, and all day long you are working for good in the world. God of us all, your love never ends. When all else fails, you still are God. We pray for one another in our need. To those who doubt, give more light. To those who are weak, give more strength. To all who sorrow, give greater comfort. And stir up in us a desire to please you by living with all our neighbors in a spirit that helps make possible your peace. Amen.
Our trusty piano player is stuck in Kansas City, so we're going to have to do this a cappella. So let's do something real easy like God Bless America. Ready? God bless America. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I love this time of year. With my name being Joy, I get to hear it a lot, as in to the world. It's my pleasure today to introduce our visitors and our visiting Rotarians. As I call your names, please stand with your guest, and we will hold our applause until all have been introduced. Our member, Chuck Wilson, has with him today David Littlefield, President and CEO of Littlefield. President Karen is trying to win the Bring the Most Visitors to Rotary. And her guests today are Carrie Vesely Henderson with Tulsa Botanic Gardens. Also with Tulsa Botanic Gardens is Lori Hudson, and also F. Todd Lasang. In addition, President Karen has a guest, Lisa Long, with Cherokee Nation Businesses. And let's see, oh yeah, Joe Howell, who's a friend of President Karen's. She does have friends outside of Rotary. Bev Marquardt's guest today is Corinne Gates with the Janeda Batchelor Foundation. Linda Bradshaw has two guests today, her loving husband, and this may be news to you all as it was to me, but the TV star Samantha Isler is the granddaughter of the Bradshaws. Could they have any more talent in that family? Wow, we're so happy you're here. The family of Burl Watson is here today. His wife Nita Watson and Emily Hilsman, his daughter. Bob Sade has family here today, his daughter Kim Cook and his son Daniel Mooney. John Howland's guest today is Barbara Hess with Morgan Stanley. And with Duff Weddle today is Charles Pyle, a good friend of his. And I believe I've got all of those. And now we move on to our visiting Rotarians. From the Rotary Club, from Sunrise Rotary Club, we have Tom Clark, past district governor. Hi, Tom. And from the Rotary Club of North Tulsa is Wallace A. Williams, also past district governor. Hi. And from Southside, we have two members, Ben Gorell. Hi, Ben. And Peter Jansen. Hi, Peter. We're so happy all of our guests are here today, and we do hope that you'll come back and join us another time. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Now, our Rotary sponsor this week is Mark Gray with Inverness Village. We encourage you to do business with your fellow Rotarians. So please, let's thank all of today's sponsors and all of our great volunteers. And Kathy Gurrell, if you would come forward, please, for a memorial resolution for Burl Watson.
Please join me in celebrating the life of Burl Watson. Burl Watson passed peacefully from this life surrounded by his adoring family on October 17, 2013, at the age of 86 after a brief illness. Burl was born June 15, 1927, in Brooklyn to Burl S. and Emmeton Burns Watson. He grew up in New York City in a suburb of Manhasset. He earned a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering with a varsity track letters from Worcester Polytechnic Institute and an MBA from an EMBA from Columbia University in 1969. Burl enlisted in the U.S. Navy on VE Day 1945, where he served in the V-5 pilot training program. He joined the U.S. Air Force during the Korean War and was released as a first lieutenant in 1953. He met his precious wife, Nita Burnett, on a California Zephyr train where Nita worked as a Zephyrette. And they were married in San Francisco in 1956. In 1957, Burl and Nita moved to Bartlesville, where he worked for city service as a finance executive. He was also certified as a professional engineer in the state of Oklahoma. In 1964, he was transferred to Tulsa and continued to work for city service. And then in '83, Burl retired, and he was exceptionally generous with his time and talent. Burl was an active member of Kirk of the Hills Presbyterian Church, serving as an elder, as a trustee, usher, greeter, Sunday school teacher. He served as a trustee for the University of Ozarks, an officer for the Tulsa Opera, Chamber Music Tulsa, Friends of Tulsa Library, and Upwood Trees. Burl served the Rotary Club of Tulsa on many, many committees. He was a Club Foundation Fellow and a Paul Harris Fellow. Burl was exceptionally well-read and intellectually curious. We will remember Burl for his quick wit, his love of telling jokes, and his passion for travel. Burl is survived by his loving wife, Nita, of 57 years, son, Doug, daughter, Emily, who is also with us, Hillsman, her husband, Tom, son, Byron, and his wife, Amy. He is also survived by his sister, Angie de Albora, and 6 grandchildren. In his memorial service, Pastor Wayne Hardy gave examples of Burl's passion for a particular principle. At a specific meeting, the vote of the congregation did not go to his liking. However, Burl believed in the system, and he did not waver on his commitment to move ahead for the benefit of the church. We will remember Burl for his gracious and giving spirit. Will you stand and join the family for a moment of silence? Thank you. You may be seated.
Kathy, thank you so much. Nita, I just have one thing to say to you. Burl used to give me such a hard time about the Big Indian Project. If we ever break ground on that, I'm going to call you and you will have to be there. Committee meetings today. Club Foundation Trustees, room 233. Crescendo Awards, that has been postponed until next week. Salvation Army Bell Ringers, room 234. There is no room 235 if that's up there. Okay, 234. And youth activities, four-way speech. Meet Luann in the back of Thomas Hall, right back here. Other announcements, we have Get Well cards on your tables for words of encouragement to Rotarian Terry Heritage. Terry's recovering at home from a round of serious back pain, and we ask you to use the Sharpie on your table so your messages are easier for Terry to read. And now, congratulations, Paula Wood and the entire Shop with a Cop crew. It was so much fun, and Paula, thank you for my holiday pin. It's so cool. Oh, all right, let's just take a look at what it was like last Saturday. We had a blast. There was a little rivalry at the event Saturday. All right, you get the picture. It was fun. Thank you, Steve. And now, Ed Monette, if you would join me, we've got some big news today.
Two announcements, Karen. For those of you that were at Shop with a Cop, having a good time, I was also having a good time, and would be happy to share with you the results of the football game if anyone. Yeah. But I promised Karen I wouldn't mention that. So, no, as you know, for the last few weeks we have been on a campaign to make sure Karen kept her promise to Rotary International President Ron Burton. That promise being that our club would achieve first class. We further said we wanted to be the first large club to achieve first class, meaning everybody in the club gives something to Rotary International, either through Polio Plus or the annual program fund. I am happy to announce that thanks to a few wonderful angels that made donations on behalf of those that we were not able to contact, and as you know, there's folks that are ill or traveling during this brief couple of week period. Donations were made on their behalf, and it allowed us to successfully achieve first class. And I believe we are the first large club in the United States, if not the world. I know we beat the Heathens down the turnpike. And as you know, the amount of gift was not of a consideration. However, this club has proved its generosity again. We gave more than $20,000, and matched with Bill and Melinda Gates, we achieved more than $60,000 for the End Polio Now campaign. Thank you, Karen.
It takes a lot to keep me honest, you know. Thank you guys so much for making that happen. I am so excited. And we will let Ron know today that we've accomplished this. Project announcements, Brad Anthem Matin, Salvation Army bell ringers, and no slip and slide?
No slide? No, I have a slide. You know, President Karen, I did learn something after 23 years of being in the club.
What is it?
That you can't be impeached from Rotary, because I showed up today and my name was still in the badge, my tag was still in the badge box. So I won't even tell you what my phone says the weather forecast is supposed to be for the 19th, but it's supposed to be nice, nicer than it was supposed to have been last week. But you know what they say about weather in Oklahoma: if you don't like it, wait an hour. So I still have a few spots that have no coverage. So if you are available on the 19th, I would appreciate your assistance in bell ringing. If you're doing it and somebody sitting next to you is one of your friends and they're not joining you, encourage them. It will become an annual tradition with you once you've done it once. And I want to thank everybody for their patience, their understanding, and you know, when you've got somebody like me in charge, then you know.
I am so grateful you did this. You jumped in at the last minute, and then it became a headache. So thank you very much.
Things can go awry at times. So
yeah. Yes,
anyhow,
they can. But
thank you.
Thank you. And Brenda Melancon. Is Brenda here? All right. On December 21st, we're going to have a work day. They need volunteers at the Medical Supplies Network. So if you haven't ever done that, it's a lot of fun. It's great bonding time with your fellow Rotarians. So just contact Brenda, Judge Peterson, any of those folks. They'll get you hooked up. And now, Sergeant at Arms Janet Rockefeller.
Hello. I've got to be able to see. Okay, hit it. Okay, Linda Bradshaw caught her granddaughter because she was in the paper because she's going to be the Grand Marshal at the Holiday Parade of Lights on Saturday. I think that is very exciting. And she's only 15. Major overachiever, and in this club, you belong. Okay, and Linda did pay a fine for that, so thank you very much. Okay, and then Michael Willis, how timely. $125 to shop with a cop. Thank you very much, and it was such a success. Appreciate that. Okay, and here's Rob Berry, and this man is so proud. He, $50, and he would like all of the other Sooners to donate $50 for their big win over OSU. So, hey. I'm neutral, I'm Switzerland, I'm University of Denver. We don't even have a football team. So, and I just thought this was a great picture, and so I wanted to put it in there. Great job, Paula. You guys just rock. It was wonderful. And then, wow, okay, so Scott and Margie Fulstrup, $5,000. And this is Scott's, his words of wisdom. Everybody donate before December the 31st. He's donating $5,000. And because he is fiscally responsible, he thought the best place to put this would be the Crescendo Awards. Thank you so much, Scott. And lastly, I'd like to announce the Rotary International 2014 convention. It's in Sydney, Australia. And if you decide to go, if you book by next Wednesday, you'll save $100. If you have any questions, you can see Marty Alexander. And believe me, you need to save every penny you can on this trip. So, but no, it'll be wonderful, and Marty would be glad to see you and talk to you. That's it. Thanks.
Okay, great. Janet, thank you so much. Scott, you rock. Thank you, Scott. Now, before our speaker, I want to mention that part of the Crystal Bridges experience is a breathtaking outdoor setting. The 11 acres of landscape that include paths that allow you to walk the grounds surrounded by some 5,000 shrubs, 40,000 ground covers, 15,000 bulbs, and 1,200 trees with beautiful streams and boulders that complement the surrounding woodlands. Tulsa landscape firm Howell & Van Kuren was the architect team on this project. And you probably know their work from other local projects. That include Philbrook, Guthrie, Green, Linnaeus Teaching Garden, University of Tulsa, BOK Center, and Southern Hills Country Club, just to name a few. Now, please welcome Mr. Howe, my friend. Would you please stand up? And thank you. So, Joe, thank you for being here today. I figured you'd get a kick out of this. And another note, the Mars Company, also from Tulsa, did all of the electrical work there. And Rod was saying they are still doing work at the museum, so that's a very good thing. So, now on that note, I would like to introduce our Rotarian of the day. He is Don Walker. He joined our club in May of 2000. Don is the president, CEO, and chairman of Arvest Bank. He is both a Club Foundation Fellow and a Paul Harris Fellow, a man who works hard every day to make this a better city. Please welcome our Rotarian of the Day, Don Walker.
Thank you, President Karen. I'm really honored today to introduce our speaker. But a little personal story first. You know, when I think of the oil boom, 100 years ago, Tulsa had an oil boom. We experienced this great wealth building generation. And those people, as we look back, they contributed so much to this city. And to, we know our Gilcrease Museum and Philbrook are great donations of that oil boom. Well, for the last 30 years, Bentonville, Arkansas, where I spent a good part of my career, has experienced what I would refer to as a Walmart boom. During that period, the same thing has occurred. The arts community and the citizens have benefited. So I think we all just want to compare those two instances when a small, sleepy community becomes a great place for the world to see, and that those places have treasures that we can all be proud of. When I moved to Bentonville in 1976, it was, the highway was referred to as Highway 71. There was one stoplight in Bentonville, Arkansas. The only restaurant, the only place you could dine was, well, there were two places. One was the Dog and Suds, and the other was Fred's Hickory Inn. So if any of you have ever been over there, Fred's survived. Dog and Suds, for some reason, didn't survive. When I left there in 1998 to come to Tulsa, they were pretty excited because, believe it or not, they were going to get an Applebee's. Get the point? You know, that it was a pretty sleepy town until about 15 years ago. And really, the last 15 years have been incredible. And if you haven't been over there, you would see certainly a renaissance, similar to what we're experiencing in our downtown revival here. But today, Walton Boulevard, which is the old Highway 71, it hosts the headquarters of the nation's largest company, 1.2 million employees. But not only that, but other things have changed in that period. For example, some great restaurants are now there, including P.F. Chang's like ours and Ruth Chris, one that we don't have yet. But they're going through a renaissance that I think is pretty incredible. They have just a plethora of unique private restaurants. The little sleepy community has really finally come into its own. Well, I can talk about all those things, but the thing that's changed the face of Bentonville is Crystal Bridges. And not only has it changed the face of Bentonville, but the entire region, which I do consider Northeast Oklahoma. What you're going to hear today shows that it doesn't matter what you add in a community, there's always something that can literally change the face. And as I said, Crystal Bridges had. When Alice Walton and her brothers decided to honor their mother because Helen had a real love for the arts community and a love for the region. They wanted to honor her with something unique and something dramatic, and I think they achieved their goal, and I'm anxious for Rod to share that with us today. We're fortunate to have Rod here with us today. Rod Bigelow is Executive Director of Crystal Bridges. He has 20 years of experience in financial and museum management. Rod joined Crystal Bridges in 2010 as it was being designed and built. We have seen the changes to the landscape there. I know he's going to talk about that, but Rod's been, he was responsible for all of that advanced work through the construction, administration, operations, finance, the facilities, the trails, as well as IT and security. He has the background that I know the Waltons were certainly thrilled when they were able to bring Rod on board. Before joining Crystal Bridges, Rod was the COO of the Toledo Museum of Arts, and he had exited there as the interim director. Rod was also the director of administrative and financial services at the Art Institute of Seattle, and also the CFO of the Tacoma Art Museum. Rod received his MBA from Pacific Lutheran University. Rod's married and has two teenage daughters. We're honored to have Rod with us today. Please join me in welcoming Rod Bigelow.
Thank you, Don. Just to start off, we're up to 4 stoplights now, so I'm just kidding. Thank you all for having me here today. I really appreciate the honor of talking to the Rotary in Tulsa. It's a great place. We spend a lot of time driving back and forth from Bentonville to Tulsa, so it's a great opportunity to be here and talk with you all. You're going to watch a few slides. We're a visual institution, so I'll show you some images, and I know that you'll learn a little bit more about Crystal Bridges if you've been there before, but we'll just start with this. So this is our mission statement. Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art welcomes all to celebrate the American spirit in a setting that unites the power of art with the beauty of nature. That's what's driven us from the very beginning. That's what's driven the Walton family in this endeavor from the very beginning. We opened the museum on November 11th, 2011. This is a great overview of what it is, very high tech. Its arrival on the national scene garnered a bit of attention, not only because it was the first major American museum dedicated in the last generation, but also because it was designed by renowned architect Moshe Safdie. And of course, a great deal of attention was given because of its impressive collection, which provides a survey of great American art from colonial times to the present. There's another reason, which Don mentioned, which is it's in Bentonville, Arkansas. A little unusual. It's, 1,500 miles from Los Angeles and almost 1,300 miles from New York. So it's not in the epicenter of metropolitan world. But also, people, many of you know our story by now, many aspects of the story. Crystal Bridges was founded by Alice Walton, whose father, Sam Walton, created and built Walmart. The original 5 and Dime is located on our town square in Bentonville. And like Don mentioned, the company's headquarters are still in downtown. Alice and her brothers grew up here and spent much of their time exploring the hills and the creeks and the forests, the land that makes up Crystal Bridges' 120 acres today. Alice loved art from a very young age. And what you see here is her very first acquisition. It's a Picasso. It's a 25-cent Picasso because she bought it from the 5 and Dime when she was just a small girl and just fell in love with the object. And this sort of started her collecting phase. But as an adult, her love of art continued to grow and her collection became rather more sophisticated. She was particularly fascinated with American art primarily because of her interest in the study of American history and the history of its people. Considering how art had enriched her own life, Alice wanted to share that experience with others, and she felt that the greatest The greatest works of art should be accessible to everyone, not just those who happen to live in a major metropolitan area like New York City or Los Angeles. So she proposed the idea to her family members, and they embraced the project and set the wheels in motion on this property. This is early, September 2006. This is the land after a little bit of clearing has been done, but it was originally owned by the Walton family and donated to the museum project. From the beginning, Crystal Bridges wanted to be distinguished by a focus on education, much like most institutions in the art world. But we wanted to make sure that it was at the very core of the museum's mission and part of everything that we do. And it's vital that we're recognized as a welcoming institution, a welcoming place, a place where everyone would feel comfortable. With so few museums in the region, many of the people in the community would never have been to a museum before and likely not to an art museum. So we had to break the stereotype of museums and the idea that they only catered to folks with a PhD in art history or had a thorough understanding of art history. It was also important to be different. This is a yoga class for kids in the museum, so we really wanted to make sure that we brought in a wide range of activities, as much as a community center as a museum space. And finally, the natural landscape. Alice's notion from the very beginning was that the museum would bring together her two loves of art and nature to create a venue of enjoyment for all. And she really began this effort with the search for an architect. She went to visit museums around the world, and she decided to speak with a wonderful man named Moshe Safdie, an architect who had designed the National Gallery of Canada and the Skirball Center in Los Angeles, as well as the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem. He has tri-citizenship in Israel, Canada, and the United States. But she arranged to meet Safdie here. Here are some of his projects. Oops, sorry, I went fast. This is Israel. And she arranged to have him come to Bentonville to have a conversation. Safdie and Alice explored the property, and he really fell in love with the landscape and was inspired by the family home that was designed by Faye Jones. Safdie proposed this sort of back-of-the-napkin sketch very, very early on in the process, and really they came together and wanted to make sure that the forest, the landscapes sort of enveloped the museum, and you can kind of see that. It's a wonderful area of natural springs and natural Ozark landscape. Alice and Moshe hit it off from the very beginning, and when you look at the building today, you can see the incredible engineering of the project and how intense that was. This is some early models. When you choose an architect of the stature of Safdie, you know that you're going to be pushed to the nth degree on design, and this is just one example of how he chose to use the technology of a suspension bridge and integrate it into a roof system. So the roofs in most of the building are held up only by a suspension cable. If you've been there, you've seen that. In 2005, construction began on the site, and at the same time, some national attention was drawn to Crystal Bridges' project, that something was happening in little old Arkansas. Construction, here's a short video of a little bit of construction, the intricate activity of putting together some of those bridges. But most of the challenges that we had in construction were about the site rather than the design. Managing water that was continuously flowing through the construction site was a bit of a challenge. And then it's in a holler. That's an Arkansas word that I'm not so good at. It's in a ravine that captures a tremendous amount of water and rushes through the site. So on a few occasions, you see some of those large machines rolling down the river, which is a little exciting. And then finally, the ravines. There are a number of ravines in northwest Arkansas, and we pumped, the earth really gobbled up thousands of tons of concrete as we went through this process. But even with all that construction, the museum had not really hit the national stage until an important acquisition of art that we had. Oops, I'm supposed to wait. Maybe. Drum roll. Steve. There we go. This is Kindred Spirits, Asher B. Durand's Kindred Spirits. And with the purchase of the Durand, from the New York Public Library, some were dismayed that the work would actually leave New York City and be fettered away in all places but Arkansas. Alice Walton was decried by some as a culture vulture, swooping down and gobbling up priceless works of art and hide them away in a vanity project. The implication was that if the art was moved to Arkansas, nobody would see it. Because who in Arkansas or anywhere else west of the Mississippi or east of the Rocky Mountains could possibly have an interest in art? Of course, we all know that's not true, right? But that's exactly why Crystal Bridges was built where it is in Bentonville, Arkansas. Nevertheless, Crystal Bridges was a grand experiment. The eyes and scrutiny of the art world were upon us and continue to be. Could a new American art museum make it in Middle America? Could there be an audience for art outside of the metropolitan area? And I'll tell you, spoiler alert, yes, the answer is yes, but I'll get there later. Let's talk about the collection for a moment. It began with a personal collection of Alice Walton, a core group of some 100 works, most in the 19th century, many that are currently on long-term loan to the museum. The majority of the collection has been acquired since that core group, and with tremendous support from the Walton Family Foundation and others, and with professional guidance from a strong museum team throughout the process. The collection is arranged and installed chronologically, so walking through the galleries can give you a walk through American history. You can see how art evolves over time, and how it's interpreted by artists themselves in the time. But each work really has its own story to tell. This is a great story because you wonder where this guy is shooting in the background when his poor friend is being attacked by something that I think would make me a little nervous. So I'm not sure if he's a friend of his or not, but each work really has a story to tell like this, even though it may not be as obvious. Many of the naysayers insisted that a museum founded in the 21st century could not be put together, given that the important works were already in other museum institutions or in private collections. And so we've really worked hard to try to counter that discussion. This is Rosie the Riveter, if some of you have seen Norman Rockwell's wonderful work. So it's acquisitions like this that sometimes are afforded an opportunity by us being a new museum. We happen to have a sizable endowment to be able to acquire a work of art, and so we can act a little bit more agilely when we find an object. And we have certainly we have procedures for acquisition, but we can often really make decisions quickly to acquire work. We're also able to view each work on its own merit rather than sort of going through a checklist of things we need to add or artists we need to include in the collection. We have a strategic plan for collecting, and we have the agility to respond when opportunities present themselves. This is a great example. This is one object of a suite of 5, and the suite of 5 is a portrait of the Levy-Franks family that represent portraits of the first. It's really the first set of portraits of a Jewish family in New York City, and so it's very important. And when we were visiting an art auction house, they were actually planned to be separated and sold individually, and so they would be apart for the first time since 1735. And so we were able to acquire them all and be able to place them in the museum in perpetuity. So it was a wonderful thing that we were able to do. But each object has a criteria that we use. Each must be able to contribute to the collection as a whole and individually. Our criteria demands that the work should delight the eye. And by delighting the eye, I don't always mean that it has to be beautiful. Some of you may not see this as beautiful, but it must create interest. It must arouse curiosity and generate that spark that attracts the viewer, that attracts you to it. It might deal with a difficult subject, or it might utilize media that creates a spark that first catches the eye. Great works must engage the mind. They must make us think. They generate curiosity. They cause you to ponder. What do they mean? Or what perhaps is happening in the image? Or what historical pressures or activities or actions were happening at the time when the artist painted it? This is part of the reason why education is at the central part of the mission of the museum. Once we've caught the artist or caught the viewer's eye, our next job is to help them take the next step. In everything we do, from the gallery labels to guide training to audio tour scripting, we're finding points of connection, ways to help our visitors engage in individual works of art. This is Stella. Stella lives on our grounds. Stella's often ridden by 60-year-old women and 10-year-old boys, and it's all okay. So it's important that work is appealing to the heart. It's really something that we can't define. It's really difficult for us to say, and it's elusive to define what that is, and it's individual to all. Some people find this work creepy, but some people are amazed by it. And when you go to the museum, you'll have an opportunity to visit Evan Penny. This is a self-portrait of what he doesn't want to look like in 20 years. So it's an amazing work that actually uses the artist's own hair in the sculpture. But so you may have an emotional response to something like this. It goes beyond engagement to connection, to internalization. This is Roxy Payne at the entrance. It's not something that we can create artificially, but it comes from within. It's what you bring to the table, and you don't have to have, all you have to have is life experience to walk in the door. Even though we have some walk in the door with only 2 months of life experience, we still welcome them. It brings me back to the earlier question. Is there an audience for art in Northwest Arkansas? And I can say resoundingly yes. I tipped you off on that earlier. In our first year, we had 650,000 visitors, which came. And we are just about at 1.1 million visitors as of right now. They came from all over the country. So the darker the colors, the more concentrated they're coming from. So there's a strong group coming from. And also they came from over 60 countries. Most significantly, they're coming from our region. They're coming from our own immediate space. This will show you where they're coming from. 60% come from Arkansas, with an additional 20% coming from the touch states. And I've highlighted just a few, but if you know your geography, you can say them all. I have it written, so if you need it, I can get it. Raise your hand if you've been to Crystal Bridges. All right. So that 5% from Oklahoma is right here in this room. But you're exactly the folks that Crystal Bridges would put where it is. The skeptics thought that you would all stay at home and not come to the museum, but clearly that's not the case. We've also hosted school visits. More than 30,000 school children come visit the museum on an annual basis. Most of these students have never been to a museum before, and certainly not to any museum at all. Not an art museum, but likely not a museum at all. We're only beginning to discover the impact of that engagement, that enrichment for an entire generation of kids. Art gives a unique opportunity to teach American history. This is a great image of a hammer and sickle from Andy Warhol. And it gives us a great opportunity to talk about what the Cold War was, which surprisingly, many kids have no clue what that was. So luckily, I quizzed my 17-year-old before coming, and she actually did. So we're doing something right. We also integrate technology in a way that they can connect to the artwork really easily. In fact, we recently completed a study with the University of Arkansas that that reached out and surveyed kids that had been on a one-time visit to the museum. And the researchers interviewed these students in both a treatment and control group to see what the impact to, in terms of knowledge, comfort with art, and likeliness to return. And they were really surprised at the outcome of this study. The intriguing results revealed increases in historical empathy, understanding what it was like to be at a different time in history, an increase in critical thinking skills, likelihood to return, and also knowledge acquisition and retention. So it's pretty impressive, especially in rural communities where the results were almost double that of those in an urban environment. So kids are really getting an amazing experience from just visiting the museum once. But it's also impacted our community, like Don had said. Tax revenue is significantly up. In our county, occupancy at hotel and motels are up significantly. And of course, an institution like Crystal Bridges will spawn the ideas of art and cultural activities in the area. We're just about to launch a project with the Walton Family Foundation and others to build a children's museum at the entrance of the museum, which is a separate project, but one that will add to the cultural environment of the city. And in fact, also the state has gotten involved. They've taken advantage of the hype around Crystal Bridges and have somewhat rebranded Arkansas as not only the natural state, but also the cultural state. So they're jumping on the bandwagon. But perhaps the best indicator of success for Crystal Bridges is not in the numbers and figures, but it's in the responses that we've received from our guests and from other community members. We currently have 8,000 members of the museum, even though we have sponsored admission from Walmart, which means there's no cost. So there's really not a great benefit for being a member, but it's about having an ownership in the institution and what we do. So yes, there is an audience in Northwest Arkansas, and they are appreciative and enthusiastic. And of course, what do we have to do next? We have to continue to keep them engaged. We have to continue to do things in the future. So what will that be? Well, first of all, oops, this is something we haven't announced yet, so you have to keep it really quiet. Today we have approximately 2,400 objects in our collection, which is tiny. The Philbrook has hundreds of thousands. I mean, the Gilcrease has hundreds of thousands. So we have to continue to play an active role in the art market at all levels, continue to acquire and bring new objects into the collection. This is a Jeff Koons hanging heart, and it's about 9 feet tall by 11 feet wide, and it will hang in the museum restaurant. And it's not here quite yet, but it's made of stainless steel and weighs about 3,300 pounds. So we really haven't announced this, so you have to swear you can't tell. And then this is a recent acquisition that we also had, which is Edward Hopper's Blackwell Island. So we continue to collect in many generations. The Koons heart was from 2009, I believe, and this is from 1928. So we'll continue to collect in that way. Also, collect in unusual ways. This is Portrait of Alexander Hamilton by John Trumbull, and we acquired this with the Metropolitan Museum in New York. So we share this, and it goes back and forth every couple of years. So it's exciting. And we also have a library that is open to the public, and anyone can come in and use its 55,000 objects. 1,000 of them are what we call color plate books, or color plates, on topics such as natural history or American exploration, or even this very odd thing which is called materia medica, which are these happen to be tools that they use in surgical environments during the Civil War. So you can always dig into it. Yeah, don't look too fast. But we also have an active temporary exhibition program on our grounds. Karen showed some of our grounds earlier, and I could go on and on and on about the grounds, how you should come in every month to see how they change and how they evolve. But this is Leo Villarreal's Buckyball, and it is a structure at the entrance of our building that was originally in New York City, and we brought it to Bentonville to put it in the natural environment, and it has an technically endless array of different LED light colors that comes on at night, and it's called what we call a digital campfire. So it's a way for people to come together in a new, different way. And of course, we do things, this is installed at our entrances as well. It's called Makin' Hay, and this is Tom Otterness's work in a field. And these are hay bales that have been created to welcome and connect guests with what's about this culture in Arkansas. We also work with partnerships of institutions that are focused on developing relationships internationally, where we focus on bringing the world to Brentonville and Crystal Bridges to the world. So we've established a multi-year relationship with the Louvre in Paris, the High Museum in Atlanta, and the Terra Foundation in Chicago, in which we'll develop small exhibitions that travel amongst the locations on an annual basis. So we'll continue to do that. But education is the key, as I mentioned before. It's the key to everything that we do at the museum. By educating visitors, we increase their engagement with art and their involvement with the museum, as well as the community and their families. By educating kids like these, who they must be having fun. I look like that at my desk every day. But it certainly helps to ignite a spark that whatever they choose to be or become, that we hope that art is part of their life over the long term. We continue to have an active schedule of temporary exhibitions. This happens to be the Paley collection from New York, from MoMA, and it's an opportunity for us to bring a wonderful group, a wonderful collection to the museum. And also we will continue to mount exhibitions from our own collection and recent acquisitions. On the lower section of this is an exhibition that is on right now, which is called The Artist's Eye. And it was acquired. It's an interesting episode of the museum's history where we acquired this work from and with the Fisk University, where Georgia O'Keeffe had originally given 101 objects to Fisk University, and now we co-own it. And it includes amazing objects like this from Georgia O'Keeffe herself, called the Radiator Building, and great works from Stieglitz, who was a major artist in the early 1900s, but also marks the first time where non-American works will have entered the collection. So there are a number of works from artists, European artists like Matisse here, who, as well as some African sculptures. So this is the story of Crystal Bridges. Today the collection, like I said, is about 2,300 objects and counting, but it's only part of the story. Our vision of the museum is to transform lives through experience that foster the discovery ideas, expanded dreams, and inspired actions. We celebrated our two-year anniversary in November and continue to focus on this as we move forward. Thank you again for having me here today. I appreciate it.
I know some of you have to get back to work. Does anybody have any questions for Rod? Yes, Ben.
The Norman Rockwell exhibit was fantastic. Do you have any other large exhibits planned?
Of course. There's a long list of exhibitions that you won't want to miss. So Paley is one of them, which is a group of amazing European artists, including Picasso and Leger and all sorts of others, so you'll want to definitely come to that. We're also doing a contemporary exhibition that opens in the spring that will bring together 100 contemporary artists from around the country that will show you what artists are thinking about today, and they're focused on understanding. Contemporary art is scary for a lot of us, including me, so it'll be an exhibition that will really give you an entree to contemporary art.
Right. Since we had so many go to Crystal Bridges, how many of you had your picture taken with the pig, Stella, or the bears? Anybody? Oh, well, I'm probably that 60-year-old woman he was talking about. That's so sad. Dang. All right. This book, Poems to Learn by Heart, will go to Celia Clinton and is, of course, signed by Rod. Upcoming programs, Booker T. Washington High School Choir will be here next week. And I want to thank Sam for coming out, and everybody go join her. She's the parade marshal. Stand up again. We are so excited to have you here and wish you so much good luck with your show. It is really funny, and if you haven't watched it, you should. All right. It's Sean Saves the World. 8 o'clock. Thursdays. Thank you, Grandpa. All right. Now, for the rest of December, I'll be sharing photo Christmas cards from fellow Rotarians, I guess, through next week. So feel free to bring yours in or send me one. It's pathetic, but it's the only way I could get Christmas cards this year. All right. Our holiday greeting today comes from Rotarian Michael Willis and his family. This will be Olivia's first Christmas, and I know that Michael and Marcy will have even more fun than baby Olivia. And Brenda Melancon says, Merry Christmas. It's Daniel's senior year, so this is going to be a very special Christmas. And I'm wondering if Daniel has asked for a shiny new car from Santa. And Rotarian and next year's Sarge Matthew Bristow's Christmas card features 4-year-old Lyle, who is asking Santa for Lego and soccer stuff, and 2-year-old Eden, who wants Santa to bring anything purple and pink with princesses. And I have it on good word from the North Pole that a purple and pink dollhouse will be sitting under the tree. And with that, we will close this Rotary meeting. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Be careful on the ice. See you next week.